He had accosted me many times, and he started to hurt my boys. That was the defining moment.
He came up behind me, grabbed my ponytail, and whacked me over the head. And that's kind of one of the last things I remember, other than hearing his dad's voice on the phone saying what happened and him saying, "She's bleeding, what do I do?" And his dad told him to get out and run.
My 7-year-old daughter was brutally murdered by her father in August of 2018. All of the testimony, all of the evidence, all of the multiple people that came into this court system, they still continued to let him have her unsupervised.
Jake disclosed that he was sexually abused by his dad from the ages of 5 to about 10, and now the courts don't believe him.
He would break through doors. He would turn locks around so we couldn't run to safety. They arrested him. I felt like I was going to be able to get out and get away. And then I got into the court system.
The judge finally ordered that he had to go on a visit with his dad. He tried texting me, but I was court-ordered. I was not allowed to have any contact with him, to please get me out of here. I'm gonna run.
I was crying on the stand. It was really hard to talk in front of all those people because it was the first time ever, and the judge actually laughed at me to the point that the attorney said, "Do you find this amusing, Your Honor?"
Pointed a high-powered hunting rifle at my head and then threatened to blow my daughters off in front of his parents. But let's give him custody of 2 small children.
I don't understand. I expected that people would listen and protect my children and I.
The judge sat there and threatened me that if I did not go to a reunification camp at $15,000 for the week, that I was gonna lose custody of my other son immediately.
They went into my boys' school, threatened to put them in shackles and handcuffs, and took them to what they refer to as reunification therapy.
There was no electricity, no lights in the cabins where we sat or slept. We weren't allowed to have our cell phones. We got yelled at.
I got arrested for interfering with a court order. I was taken to jail.
Sunday morning, per the court order, expecting her to arrive home at 6. 9:16, I finally called the Philadelphia Police, the 5th District. He says, "You need to take this up with the courts. Have a nice night, ma'am," and he hung up on me. My dad and husband get there and just popped the gate, went in the back, the door was open, they went in, and she was laying there, beaten to death, with her shoes on, by the door, with a bag over her head, and a cord around her neck.
Not one judge, not one lawyer has stepped back and gone, "You know what, there's something really wrong here."
Nobody did anything to help us. They took away our ability to be safe. They took away our ability to get the help we needed. And then they took my children. I'm not allowed to even contact them. I have no idea how they are. The last text I got from my son, he said, "Why?" I couldn't send anything back because I would have been arrested again.
My greatest fear is he will hurt my children because he knows that would cause me a lifetime of pain.
I've lost everything. I've lost my home. I've lost my car. I lost my job. I lost everything fighting. He has used court as a means to continue to abuse us.
The kids are turned over to the abusive fathers from good mothers.
I never imagined the court system to be as brutal as the physical abuse I endured.
We're seeing a crisis in the family courts where mothers and children who allege child abuse are disbelieved or their claims are minimized. And the outcome is that children who are at risk or are getting abused are getting court-ordered into the care of the abusing parent when there is a safe alternative, a safe protective parent. This is happening for a few reasons, in part because family court judges and court personnel who are part of the decision-making process are not properly trained on the facts of child abuse and child sexual abuse. And we need more evidence-based training in the family courts, and particularly we need to address the problem of a debunked theory which is commonly invoked, and it's called alienation or parental alienation. And it's a theory that began being used in the family courts in the 1980s and is still persisted despite being debunked by the scientific and academic community roundly and repeatedly. And alienation says that mothers, who are generally the protective parent, not always, they make up claims of child abuse and particularly child sexual abuse to win custody, to punish their ex because they're vindictive and angry, and not because their child is actually being hurt or at risk. This is not evidence-based. There's no science to back it up. In fact, we know that the people least likely to make false claims of child abuse are primary caregivers, who are generally the moms. And when they get into court, they are disbelieved. We have a new study from GW Law run by Joan Meyer of about 4,000 cases. It's a national study. And it shows for the first time empirically something that we've known anecdotally for a long time, that courts are not believing protective parents and that they're instead ordering shared custody, so that the child is either going part of the time with a safe parent and part of the time with the allegedly abusing parent. They believe mothers' claims about 21% of the time when they allege child physical abuse, and even less when they allege child sexual abuse. About 19% of the time they will believe the protective parent, the mom. And this is despite the fact that children most often disclose abuse to the safe parent, the parent that's not hurting them. And so there are several changes that we can make. Most importantly, putting child safety as the first priority in custody decision-making process in the family court system. And instead, currently we have the priority being shared parenting, parents cooperating, and usually several factors. In Pennsylvania, there's 16 factors the family courts have to look at. And unfortunately, child safety is not more heavily weighted than the other factors, such as how close siblings live or how close the parents live to one another. Some other factors that are important but less important than children's safety.